Welcome to Levels of Connection, where we discuss how human connections work and why they're so important. Welcome to Levels of Connection. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Lara, who is a seasoned executive in business development with global experience. And she speaks about creating genuine relationships with potential customers and also the importance of having a genuine and true love and interest about what product or service you're promoting and talking about. Enjoy. Lara, welcome to Levels of Connection.
Thank you so much, Stefano. It's great to be here.
Good to see you again. And Lara is the Senior Director of Business Development at FTI Consulting. Business development has been in your blood and in your career for many, many years. So you're an expert on today's subject of connecting. So let's start from there. What does connecting mean to you, Lara?
So I think we have to go back to the origins of human beings, and we've always been tribal, mainly because it's very important for us to be in groups, to socialize, to protect each other, and of course also have different roles in the community. So I think human beings have evolved right from the beginning of time to be in a social group, that we are very interdependent, and therefore connection is almost essential for being a human being. And that is why actually solitary confinement is a form of torture, and that it doesn't take that many days before a human actually loses their mind. So connection is more than a nice thing to have. It's actually intrinsic to our well-being. So I think when we think about connection, we think of family, we think of partnerships with others, we think of the connections we have with our children, our other relatives, we think of it as the connection we have with our friends. So it is literally something that we need to, it's as important to us as our blood and oxygen.
There you go. Really nice opening there. How did connecting help you in your career? Talk to us a little bit about that and different milestones that you've had and what impact it had on you.
So I originally trained as a lawyer. I used to do antitrust, which is like European competition law. And I think I discovered very early in my career that the connection I could have with my clients, with my colleagues, was very, very important to personal development, to understanding the law, and to career progression. I definitely decided that actually the legal profession wasn't quite for me in terms of work-life balance and many other reasons. And so I left the law, but then I moved into the field of business development, but remaining in the legal profession at the time, particularly when I moved to Asia. And so I think I recognized that everything to do with business development is about relationships. So it is, how can you connect with others, but not on a superficial level, and certainly not when it comes to trying to sell products and services, etc. It's really not about selling something that people don't want. It's really about listening to them and developing those deep relationships where you genuinely care about them and you want to help them. And you have to be in an area or working for a business that you believe in those products yourself, and you're excited about those products, and you don't think that this is something you're forcing on others. You're just genuinely excited to share what you have, and you're trying to connect the dots. You're trying to work out how might some of your services help that person, and you have to develop that level of understanding of what they do and what is going to move them forward. So just always thinking about how you can help. And certainly that is, when you view your network, it is a collection of your friends, your family, and your business contacts. And it's not a question of just having a meaningless Rolodex. It really is a question of how many people do you know on a deeper level, and those people that you connect with, you have a resonance with them. You like each other. And what is business development? It is about giving people who know, like, and trust you something that's going to help them.
How did you come to this conclusion and this way of viewing it?
I think I've always understood that relationships are really important and fulfilling. Even back to sort of school days, I was an only child, so and being sort of quite a social being, I would connect with people through pen pals. So I had like 60 pen pals at one point.
Oh,
This was
wow.
in the days before internet and social media. So,
You're actually writing letters and posting them in the.
yes, there was nothing more exciting than going to my post box or receiving posts through my letterbox with, stickers on them and beautiful stamps. And it would be from someone overseas in a different country, and they were telling me about their lives, and there's just such a fantastic window and that element of surprise and learning and growing a friendship. So I think I graduated from that. I was one of the early adopters of Friends Reunited online, so trying to work out friends that we'd been at school with or at university. And then, of course, there was Facebook and now LinkedIn. So I'm definitely someone who's a huge fan of LinkedIn. It's the most incredible way of connecting with new people, but also maintaining connection with others, because you're connected with an individual, and so you remain connected even though they may move firms many, many different times, or they might retire, or they might move country, or whatever. But that once you have that connection, unless they disconnect with you, which also is possible, generally you stay connected for years, and you can build a huge network of thousands of people.
Well, talking about LinkedIn, you have close to, I think, 12,000 connections on LinkedIn. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I think in business development, it's really important to be visible. You need to be front of mind. People need to know where to find you. They need to know what you're about, what you do, why you do it. And they need to know you as a person as well, because they have to know, like, and trust you, as I mentioned before. And so it's the best form of soft selling, because people see your world, and when they need something that you might be able to offer, or you're somebody who can connect them to somebody else who can offer that, then you are seen as a valuable person. And also you want to be seen as generous, so sharing tips, sharing content that's going to help them in some way. I think that LinkedIn is just a really interesting mix of a way of finding people who are relevant, helping others, learning things for yourself, industry insights, latest trends. It's just the most valuable way of maintaining contact with people. But you can use tools on there to search for people that are relevant to you as well. And then you can send an invitation to say, hey, this is me. I would like to connect with you for these reasons. And then hopefully they'll accept your connection request. Then you can start a conversation in the direct messages, and you can interact with each other on the platform as well in comments and things like that. And you can really grow quite a deep relationship in an online format. And then, then it's good to do a Zoom to meet them virtually. And then hopefully if you live in the same area, you can always meet up in person as well. But I think it's incredible how the online and the real life are beginning to morph and get closer and closer together. And I must say, there are people Well, people like you, actually, Stefanos,
Mm.
who we've never actually met in real life, like
Yeah,
person to
yeah,
person to shake
yeah.
hands, but we've had so many interactions over the years that
Mm.
I'd meet you, I'd recognize you in a coffee shop, we'd be able to speak as though we've known each other for years. So I think that, that level of interaction and connection, you can actually get that through the virtual world to some degree. That means that when you meet in real life, you're already advanced in the depth of your relationship. So it's really quite amazing.
Yeah, and it's amazing the you still have to invest the energy in developing the relationship, because in the beginning, when the virtual was becoming more prevalent, we didn't really know how to handle it or how to treat it. But then after a while, I rarely separate the people that I know only from the virtual interactions versus other people that we meet face to face. It's how can you even separate that? I mean, a relationship is a relationship. Why would you separate the two, right?
Definitely. I think it's just another tool, it's another way of
Mm,
meeting new people. And I guess it does depend, though, doesn't it? I think that you can use the virtual platforms to explore enough and ask the right questions to see whether you have enough in common with somebody. I think you genuinely feel it. A lot of it is still intuition.
mm,
The in-person is definitely the next level in terms of a whole host of other things. But I would say that people shouldn't write off virtual interactions, and certainly the use of social media as a starting point. And you can go quite far on that. I mean, you hear about people, don't you, who have got online sort of dating, and then they'll sort of meet up after sort of 2 years of online dating to get married, and like literally on their wedding day is the first time they meet. So I mean, people obviously do find it an effective form of building a relationship, in the
yeah.
same way that I suppose phone calls used to be like that as well. I don't think we value the phone call as much as we used to. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, we're so used to having the picture as well, the video. Um, Lara, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self around connecting?
I think my 20-year-old self would not have ever imagined the tools and the possibilities that are available today. So I would have just said, carry on doing as you're doing, valuing relationships and socializing, and enjoying those relationships, because I think, for me, it really is my greatest joy is seeing old friends, reminiscing about things and just really catching up with people on a regular basis. I definitely can't believe how, the passage of time actually is kind of irrelevant when it comes to good, deep relationships. So
Mm,
I've got friends who I was at nursery school with, we were 3 years old, but we were able to keep in touch all these years. And so we do meet up on a, regular basis. And it's amazing how you can nurture those relationships. And of course, over that length of time, we have changed in so many ways, and all three of us have moved to different places in the world, etc., but kept in touch. And I think there's so many people with whom, once you've got that thread of kind of deep connection, you just will always be friends to some
mm,
degree. I think there's those sort of sayings around, friends for a season, friends for a reason, and then those who are friends for a lifetime, but not being too sort of bothered and attached by that. So being comfortable with the people in your life today may not actually be the people in your life tomorrow, but that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about that.
mm.
People may be there just purely for a reason, to teach you something, or because you just happen to be in the same orbit at the same time. You can't you can't keep in touch with absolutely everybody. You've got different phases of your life. So especially when you've got children, you'll have people with whom, your children's friends will mean that you become friends with those parents, and they may not necessarily be the kind of people that actually you would have chosen without those circumstances. But to really just appreciate everyone on an individual basis, and just go with the flow as to where the relationship takes you. And I've listened to quite a lot of excuse me, podcasts recently about the topic of how difficult it is to make friends as adults. Personally, I've never found that at all. I think the more you become yourself, the easier it is, actually, because you become more set in your ways, and parts of your personality become stronger, which mean that you become rather more not plain vanilla, but I think you become, your own flavor, and it means that people either like you or they dislike you. So actually, when you find people with whom you have things in common, it's easier to sort of sort them out. And so I think the idea that you could actually meet your best friend in the whole world in your whole life tomorrow, I think is really exciting. I like to think that we can all have as many friends as possible. You can never have too many friends. I mean, it's great.
And you are naturally a person that does connect and is extroverted and is looking to reach out to more people and connect with more people. What advice would you give to some people that may have a difficult time reaching out to others? How would you advise them to approach the subject?
So there was a research project done into this very idea that if you were to reach out to old friends or old contacts, etc., what would be the reception? And interestingly, and I don't remember the statistic, but it was quite convincing. It was probably over 70 or 80%, where people, when asked, when you were contacted by this person out of the blue, did you view it positively or negatively? And I think that was just the question, positive or negative. But people overwhelmingly said, wow, it was really lovely to hear from them. I really enjoyed that surprise. Yes, I remembered, why we had known each other, etc. So even though it may not perhaps blossom into a strong connection again and last, certainly the first initial reaction was very positive. So I think that people should remember that it's based on the research and the science, that overwhelmingly people will respond positively, and therefore you don't need to be too worried about whether someone, because if you're viewing them positively and you're reaching out because you liked them, the likelihood that they'll be happy to hear from you too is there, So I think more people should reach out. And I think that they should think of opportunities to reconnect with people. You hear all the time about, friends saying, oh, this person, yeah, I haven't seen them for 20 years, it feels too late, blah, blah, blah. I think that's totally wrong. If I've got an excuse to connect with someone from 20 years ago, I'm quite happy to do that. I mean, I don't know. I think my concept of time is probably a little bizarre, but to me, everything feels like yesterday. So if I haven't seen someone for 20 years, it's just, so long as I can remember them, I'm quite happy to reach out. So I would definitely say, if you've had a connection with someone in the past, don't be shy, give it a go. What have you got to lose? 9 out of 10 times they're going to say, wow, great to hear from you. Yes, totally remember. Wow, isn't that a fun, you can literally put in the heading, blast from the past, heads up, remember me. I've done that many times. I'll put that in the email, blast from the past. Hi, I'm Lara. Remember, we used to know each other from XYZ. Just reaching out to you because of, whatever has happened happened. And, always get a very nice email back, and sometimes we'll do a Zoom, we might meet up in person. But people reach out to me like that all the time as well, and I love
Mm.
that. If someone reaches out, hopefully I'll remember them. I don't have the best memory, so I'm not going to guarantee it. But I'm happy to make new friends as well. So even if I don't remember you, we can be new friends.
So being genuinely interested in others and serving others, and really just being open to new connections and new experiences with new people. As far as your roles in business development, do you have, for people that are entering this type of role of business development in other industries, is there a process that you used to follow or you follow now that could help them out with how to organize them, their time or their day, how they approach this subject?
I think it's very important just to try and organize yourself so that you can have as many conversations as possible. Really important to move sort of off email and text into conversation, whether that is virtual. Doesn't matter if it's virtual, that's still fine. But if you can meet in person, definitely there is a level of more depth to a conversation. People will say more.
Mm,
People will definitely be open to feeling more connected, so you can people feel more comfortable, I think, yes, and will reveal more and be more open. And so you can reach a deeper level. So I would say, really leverage LinkedIn. It is, if you are in business development, I mean, I'm, to be honest, really quite shocked. The number of people that tell me that they're in business development and they've got less than 500 connections on LinkedIn. I do question whether they understand what business development really is, because
mm,
that is the tool of the day for, connection, for finding the right people, for staying in touch, for outreach to new people, for understanding what's going on, for seeing other people, for supporting other people. So it really is a fantastic tool. I mean, I'm open to the idea that something even more fantastic could come along. Hopefully it will one day. But for the time being, LinkedIn is by far the best tool. Everybody should be using that, building their profile, creating their own personal brand, reaching out to as many people as possible, building those relationships, getting meetings in the diary, being very clear on the value that you can bring, trying to help other people, because ultimately, once you're known as a helpful person and you're a connector, they'll reach out to you for whatever it is they need. Quite often it's nothing to do with what you're offering, but that's kind of not the point. I mean, the point is that you're helpful, that you are there to, connect with them and give value. But at the same time, you do want it to be win-win. You can't
mm-hmm.
always be the giver, but karma is a beautiful thing, and it always comes back to you, not necessarily from whoever that person is that you last served, but certainly the universe gives you, many good things in return. So I think if you're booking as many meetings as possible, you are, posting content, you're reaching out to connect with others, you
Mm.
are going to networking events, you are speaking at conferences, doing your own podcast, all of those kind of things, just great ways to showcase who you are, what your personality is, and get yourself out there.
And Lara, you spent quite a bit of time in Asia, and now you're back in the UK with a global role, of course. But what are some similarities, differences, or learnings that you've had in the different regions that you've worked?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think so. I was in Asia for nearly 13 years. And my mother is Japanese, so I've always had an appreciation of Japanese and Asian culture generally. But people are more reserved generally. So I was living in Singapore for nearly 10 years. And when it comes to connection, people are a little more cautious. It takes a much longer time to develop a relationship. It's important to do face-to-face meetings. And there is a lot more around subtle communication, reading into what is unsaid. So body language, gestures, mannerisms, things like that. So I think you need to be quite in tune with that. But I think that people are just as willing to be friends. They want good and deep relationships. It's all about trust. You have to invest your time and effort into those relationships and spending time with people. And people are very interested in you as a whole person. So there are times when people will ask questions that to a British person may seem rather direct and probing. So, for example, they'll say, "Oh, you're renting this house. How much rent do you pay per month?" And they'll be really out with it. And interestingly, I mean, I'm quite open about that sort of thing. It doesn't bother me to say how much I pay for my rent. But when you ask them the same question, they don't always want to reply, which I find rather rude. Because if you're asking me and I tell you, well, you should tell me back. But they don't always, which I find quite interesting.
Any other war stories around connecting for the, all these years in different countries, different corporations?
I think the main message is to play the long game. It takes many, many years to build those relationships, and so I would say, really try to stay front of mind and maintain some form of connection, as in somewhere that they know where to find you, which is why, the beauty of LinkedIn is once you're connected, they can reach out to you and find you on LinkedIn, and reach out to you, because so often there'll be something that so for example, I'm at FTI Consulting, and what we do is very, very varied, and in the past I've met lots of people from when I was working with barristers or when I was working with lawyers, and people I met in the past just may not have had an opportunity to bring to me because of those circumstances. But now that I'm somewhere else and doing something different, there may be the right thing that will come along, and they'll go, wow, now is my opportunity to give, Lara an opportunity. And so long as you're connected still, and you're being open and you're telling people, it's never too late to reach out. Please do connect, do send me a message. Don't just think, oh, it's been so many years, I daren't reach out. You have to let people know that no matter how many years later, you're still friends, and you can still connect, and they can still ask for your help. So I think that's the most important thing. There'll be things from 20 years ago that will pop up now. So really play the long game. See yourself on a lifelong journey of learning and connection. Don't be afraid to, put yourself out there as someone that people can reach out to. I think there's nothing worse than, people who come across as sort of bad-tempered and inaccessible, or maybe you've achieved, such success in an area that, again, people feel that they couldn't possibly reach out to you. But actually, life isn't like that. It's really important to remain down to earth and accessible, somebody approachable. So on LinkedIn, for example, make sure you have a good profile photo where people can see your face very clearly, that you've got a welcoming smile. You look like someone that's not going to bite their head off when they send you a message. I think that's really important.
Thank you, Lara. And if somebody watched this episode, what would you tell them to do an hour after they watched it around connecting?
An hour after you watch this, you should definitely get on LinkedIn. Go and check out your profile. Make sure you've got that fantastic photo. You've got things in your headline that make it clear why people should connect with you. And also look at all the people that LinkedIn is suggesting to you, because it always has a whole list of people. The algorithm is super clever. It knows exactly who you should know. It will work out, where you went to university, what industry you're working in, and it will make very intelligent suggestions, and it will say, why don't you connect with this person? You guys went to the same university, you did the same course in the same year, so those are easy wins. Reach out with a personal message, start growing your network. It's never too early, it's never too late. But don't think in transactional terms. Do genuinely think of people as human individuals, and always put yourself in their shoes. How would you like to be treated? Are you trying to grow a relationship here, or are you just sort of are you after something? So, that's very important, to be there with the right mindset.
Thank you, Lara. Any last thoughts around our subject today?
Well, I think, this podcast is a really interesting subject matter. I think everybody wants to know more about connection. Everyone wants deeper connection, I think, as we move into a more automated world. And of course, everyone's talking about the opportunities, but also the threats from AI and technology in general. People are worried about humans behaving more like robots rather than robots behaving more like humans. And so what is it ultimately that separates us from the automation? It is our human emotions, the emotional connection that we can get with another human being. And that can be in the form of literally just, being in the same room as somebody, because our instincts are very powerful. We notice smell and sound and touch, and all of these different elements that make connection so powerful. And I think that young people in particular are really craving that human interaction. So we must make sure that we don't lose that, and that we remain true to our humanity.
Thank you, Lara. And we do also talk about process, but up to now, in my experience and the experience that you and all the experts are bringing, it's more of the heart versus the process, right?
Definitely, always lead with your heart and your authentic self. Obviously, people always talk about authenticity, but this is really what it is. We're living in a world full of so much fake news and AI generated content, etc. It's so important to be true to who you are. I don't think anyone wants to meet the false you, the bot version of yourself. They want to know truly who you are, your passions, the way you think about things, your creativity, and your, the love that you can bring to other people. And I think that relationships are, good relationships are built on that sense of care for another human being. And I think you really need to show that care. And certainly good business development is genuinely about caring about that other person, and how you can help them. So that's really important, I think, as a community, in our tribe, we're always trying to help each other, because someone else will help you. It's not just a one-way street.
Lara, thank you very much. And you do know that you have an open invitation to visit Cyprus. And now that you're closer, it's easier to come here. So next episode, the refresher episode and conversation should be in Cyprus.
It definitely should. I definitely need to come to Cyprus. I agree. That would be fantastic. Yes. It'd be lovely to meet you in person, see where you live,
Oh
and
yeah.
have
We
a
never met
tour.
in person. I keep forgetting that. It's
Exactly. So
we've
now
known
we
each
need to,
other for like 3,
yeah,
4 years or something like that, and we never met in person. All these
yeah,
conversations. Yeah,
exactly.
that's a really good excuse though. So come on over.
Okay, I'll book my ticket.
Lara, It's always a pleasure.
Yes. Likewise,
I'll see you
Stefano.
soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching today's episode, and thank you for your continuous support for this channel around levels of connection. Please provide your comments below as to what you found useful from today's episode. See you soon.